I don't remember exactly when I read my first manga or when I watched an animated adaptation of it, but I have many manga-related childhood memories, and I come from a society that couldn't be further from Japan. As I grew older, rather than passing, my passion for this art form grew and matured and became stronger. The influence that some manga works have had on me in the course of my life is really very strong. And if I am the person I am today, I owe it, in part, also to these works. This is true for me, and I'm pretty sure the same is true for millions and millions of people around the world. In my opinion, the very history of this medium is something that is worth telling, and it could help to understand why this art form is so popular all over the world. We really have to start from many, many years ago to fully understand manga, and we have to dive into Asian culture in its roots. Calligraphy, in Asia, is a type of visual art unlike in the West that involves the creation of beautiful, expressive written characters using a brush and ink. It is an integral part of the artistic traditions of China, Korea, and Japan, and has a long and fascinating history. Here we can see the strong interconnections between words and images, pictures and their semantic. Calligraphy has a long history in China, with the earliest known examples dating back to the Shang dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BCE. During this time, calligraphy was used to record important information such as historical events, legal documents, and religious texts. The medium used in Chinese calligraphy is ink, and the characters are written on paper or silk. One of the unique features of Chinese calligraphy is the use of brushstrokes to create the characters. The brushstrokes are made using a special brush that is made from animal hairs, and the characters are formed by the movement and pressure of the brush on the paper. Chinese calligraphy is highly expressive, with the brushstrokes often conveying the mood and personality of the writer. Chinese calligraphy has a strong cultural and historical significance, and is considered one of the highest forms of art. Calligraphy also has a long history in Korea, where it is known as Hangul. Korean calligraphy is similar to Chinese calligraphy in that it uses brushstrokes to create the characters and is also highly expressive. Korean calligraphy has a strong cultural and historical significance, and is often used in the creation of many types of artwork. It is also considered one of the highest forms of art, and is often taught and studied by aspiring artists and scholars. Calligraphy is also an important part of Japanese culture, where it is known as shado. Japanese calligraphy is similar to Chinese and Korean calligraphy in that it uses brushstrokes to create the characters, and is also highly expressive. Japanese calligraphy is often taught and studied by aspiring artists and scholars. One of the very first combination of drawn images and written words in Asia with the goal to tell a story are handscrolls. Handscroll art is a type of traditional painting and calligraphy that is created on a long, narrow piece of paper or silk that is meant to be viewed by unrolling it horizontally. The origins of handscrolls can be traced back to the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907, in China, where they first emerged as a popular form of artistic expression. During the Tang Dynasty, painting and calligraphy were highly valued in Chinese society, and hand scrolls were a common way to display these art forms. Many hand scrolls from this period depict historical events, landscapes, or stories, and were created using ink and color. One of the unique features of hand scrolls that can remind us about manga is that they are meant to be viewed in a specific order, starting from the right side and moving left. This allows the artist to create a sense of progression or narrative within the artwork. Hand scrolls can range in length from just a few meters to over 100 meters, and are typically housed in protective cases when not on display. The popularity of hand scrolls continued to grow during the Song Dynasty, 960–1279, when they became an important form of artistic expression for both professional and amateur artists. One of the most famous hand scrolls in Chinese art is the Along the River during the Qingming Festival, also known as the Qingming Scroll, which was created by the artist Zhang Zhejuan during the Song Dynasty, 960–1279. The scroll is a detailed depiction of life in the capital city of Kaifeng during the Qingming Festival, and is considered a masterpiece of Chinese painting. As the centuries passed, hand scroll art continued to evolve and change. During the Qing Dynasty, 1644–1912, hand scrolls became more decorative in nature, with many featuring intricate patterns and designs rather than figurative subjects. In modern times, hand scrolls have faced challenges such as the decline in popularity and the difficulty of producing them due to the time and effort required. In addition to their artistic value, hand scrolls have also played a significant role in Chinese culture and history. Many hand scrolls were created as gifts for emperors, nobles, and other important figures, and were often seen as symbols of wealth and power. Hand scrolls were also often used as diplomatic gifts, and were exchanged between different countries as a way to establish relationships and foster goodwill. Known as amaka in Japan, hand scrolls have a long history in this country, with the earliest known examples dating back to the Heian period, 794–1185. During the Kamakura and Muromachi periods, 1185–1573, hand scroll art continued to evolve and change. The style of hand scroll art became more expressive and decorative, with an emphasis on elaborate compositions and bright colors. In Korea, the earliest known examples can be dated back to the Goryeo dynasty, 918–1392. During the Goryeo dynasty, hand scrolls were used to record historical events, document official proceedings, and record Buddhist scriptures. The mediums used in hand scroll art included ink, color, and gold on paper or silk, and the subjects of the scrolls could vary widely. Some hand scrolls depicted landscapes, stories, or religious themes, while others were purely decorative. During the Joseon dynasty, 1392–1910, in Korea, hand scroll art continued to flourish, with many famous artists creating works in this medium. The style of hand scroll art during this period became more formal and refined, with an emphasis on clean lines and precise compositions. Despite their long history and cultural significance, hand scrolls have faced challenges in recent years. The delicate nature of the scrolls makes them prone to damage, and many have been lost over time. In addition, the time and effort required to create a hand scroll can make them expensive and difficult to produce, which has led to a decline in their popularity in modern times. Despite these challenges, hand scroll art remains an important and influential part of Asian culture and art. The intricate details, beautiful compositions, and historical and cultural significance of hand scrolls make them a unique and fascinating art form that continues to be appreciated and admired by people around the world. With this historical background, It is not difficult to imagine how compositions of literature and visual art could flourish in Asia, and how in Japan manga could find a very fertile environment for its development and consideration. That's why in Japan we can see the direct ancestor of manga in modern era, Kamishibai. Kamishibai, which means paper drama in Japanese, is a traditional form of storytelling that originated in Japan in the 1920s. It involves the use of illustrated cards and a small stage, called a Kamishibai-do, to tell stories to a live audience. Kamishibai was originally used as a way to entertain children and sell candy, but it has since become an important part of Japanese culture and has influenced the development of manga, or Japanese graphic novels, and it quickly gained popularity among adults as well. Kamishibai was first developed in Japan in the 1920s, during a time when the country was experiencing rapid economic growth and modernization. Kamishibai performers, known as Kamishibai-ka, would ride their bikes from town to town, stopping at schools, temples, and other public places to perform their stories. The Kamishibai-ka would set up their small stage and use a set of illustrated cards to tell their stories. One of the unique features of Kamishibai is the use of illustrated cards to tell the story. These cards, which are called e-hun, contain images and text that are used to narrate the story. The e-hun are placed in a special tray and are revealed one at a time as the story progresses. The Kamishibai-ka would use their voice and gestures to bring the story to life and engage the audience. Kamishibai was extremely popular in Japan during the 1930s and 1940s, and there were thousands of Kamishibai-ka performing all over the country. However, the popularity of Kamishibai began to decline in the 1950s, as other forms of entertainment, such as television and movies, became more widely available. Despite this, Kamishibai has remained an important part of Japanese culture and has had a lasting influence on other forms of media. One of the ways that Kamishibai has influenced Japanese culture is through its impact on manga, or Japanese graphic novels. Many manga artists and writers were inspired by the storytelling and visual style of Kamishibai, and have incorporated these elements into their work. The use of illustrated cards of Kamishibai can be seen in many manga series, and the expressive and dramatic storytelling style of Kamishibai has also had an influence on manga. The first ongoing serialized manga was Fuso Icho, 1874, by author and artist Kitazawa Rakuten. It was published in the daily newspaper Jiji Shimpo. His works, and others like them, lay the foundation for what would eventually become the modern manga industry. At the beginnings of the 20th century, Japan was undergoing a period of rapid modernization and westernization, the Meiji era. Artists and writers began to experiment with new styles and techniques, drawing inspiration from Western comics and illustrations. As a result, the illustrations in manga began to look more like Western comics, in a shape common all over the world. We can start to see the modern style of manga as we know today from 1930. During the decades 1930 and 40, most of the publications were political propaganda manga made by the Japanese government during the war and did not follow the commercial manga production system. Interesting in this period is Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors, 1945, an educational manga made by the Japanese government. This was the first manga that got an anime adaptation. After the war, the 1950s marked a turning point in the history of manga, as Japan began to rebuild and recover from the devastation of World War II. The 1950s saw a surge in manga publications, with many new genres and styles emerging. This period is often referred to as the birth of modern manga. One of the most popular and influential manga of the 1950s was Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. The series was first adapted into an anime in 1963, which helped to introduce the medium to Western audiences. The series was highly popular, and it is considered a landmark in the history of anime and manga, as it was one of the first anime series to be produced in Japan and was a significant influence on the development of the anime and manga industry. The 1960s and 1970s saw the emergence of new genres and styles in manga, such as shonen, which is aimed at young male readers and features action, adventure, and science fiction themes. Another popular genre that emerged during this period was shoujo, which is aimed at young female readers and often features romance, drama, and fantasy themes. In the 1980s and 1990s, manga experienced a significant growth in popularity and diversity. In this period, several influential manga series were published, such as Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo, Urusei Yatsura by Rumiko Takahashi, Dragon Ball by Akira Toriyama, and Sailor Moon by Naoko Takeuchi. In the 2000s and 2010s, manga continued to gain popularity and diversity, not only in Japan but also around the world. The internet and digital technologies made it easier for readers to access manga from all over the world, and many manga have been translated and published in other languages. Many popular manga series have been adapted into anime, live-action films, and video games, introducing the medium to new audiences and helping to make manga an integral part of global pop culture. The success of these adaptations has led to the creation of many new manga titles, catering to different audiences and covering various genres such as action, romance, science fiction, fantasy, and more. In conclusion, the very history of manga is for me a beautiful story of figurative and narrative art, which has developed together with the growth of human society itself. This complex history and its constant evolution allows the works created with this medium to have a very powerful language, capable of expressing emotions in a unique and very powerful way, universally appreciated by people of all ages and social backgrounds all over the world. This expressive uniqueness, given by the mix of images and words and by the immense richness, complexity, and variety of the stories narrated by countless authors throughout history, but at the same time its simplicity, make us understand that this art is still very far from its end, and that there will still be many years to come where we and the next generations will be able to laugh, cry, grow, and dream together with these unique stories. Unique. Just like the soul of each author and reader is unique.